Welcome to another episode of the Organizedpreneur podcast. And today I'm going to be doing an audit, but I want to definitely introduce you to my guest today. She is Dr. Inyang Takon, and I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. Her podcast is the Early Intervention Matters podcast. So she is a consultant, neurodevelopmental pediatrician in the UK, and she is the host of the Early Intervention Matters 5 years in. And so she helps neurodivergent children get holistic, timely assessments, supports parents in assessing resources. She trains professionals and she's also built some apps, excited about that, books and CPD courses from her clinical expertise. She's an AI ambassador at her healthcare facility. And so I'm very, very excited to have her on the show today, which I thought I had lost forever. And so I thought I would go ahead and get this started while I was waiting, for you to come back. I don't know what happened. I'll be honest with you. So, but I'm glad that you are back. And so we're going to have a great conversation today. We're going to be talking about, what she does and how she helps those, that she serves. And so, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let her introduce herself in her own way. And then we will dive into what we're going to be talking about today. At the end, we're going to be doing an audit and on her business, and I'm super excited to have her on the show.
I'm Dr. Iyang Takon. I'm a consultant neurodevelopmental pediatrician. I specialize in seeing children with neurodivergent conditions. I also see children with epilepsy. I'm an epilepsy specialist as well. I see children with tic disorders, tics and Tourette's. I see children with autism, ADHD. I have interest in fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, where I have worked in that field for a long while. So I've been in pediatrics for over 30 years, but I've been a consultant in my hospital for over 2 decades now. And I started Early Intervention Matters podcast 5 years ago about the COVID period. And one of the reasons that led me to doing that was a great need that existed amongst families who did not know how to get help for their child. And there was a very long waiting list, which has grown even more since then. We've got waiting list in the UK of up to 4 years. So families are having to wait a long time to be able to get information. And you can imagine what that is. Many children stop going to school, and there's a lot of anxiety. And so because of that, I've always had this calling for a community work and engaging with the public. I did a master's in public health as well in the past. So because of that, I just felt I needed to be out there. My voice needed to be out there giving information. And so that's why I set up Early Intervention Matters podcast, which it's going to be 5 years in September. I started first doing a lot of solo episodes, and that has grown a lot. I bring in experts in their different fields, and it's been great because people have brought in their expertise and been able to give information to families. Lots of families have benefited from knowing how to support their young ones, and that's been great. So yes, the podcast is we try to put an episode out every week. Sometimes we do between 3 and 4 a month, and yeah, it's been quite rewarding. I also publish articles as well. A lot of the content I produce is from the guest episodes as well, who come into as guests on the podcast, which has been very helpful. And as Adrima mentioned, I also provide training. I've co-authored books and still working on some books which should be published soon as well, and run courses. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. You do a lot, a lot. And I'm so appreciative of you coming on the show and, being so transparent and vulnerable, even about the bottlenecks that the bottleneck that we're going to talk about. But because, a lot of people are not, you know, they don't want people to know what they're dealing with sometimes, And so I am, very, very appreciative of you coming on the show and being a guest on the show. And so we'll definitely want to get the message out there. I know you're in the UK, but since you have a podcast and everything, you're actually, spreading the word, all over the world. And so for that, we're definitely grateful, for that. Now, for the sake of the audience, letting them know, as well as you, doctor, how we're going to flow in this. So we're going to, we definitely wanted you to talk about, what you do. We're going to look at how to bridge the bottleneck, that you're having. You submitted a form, and so some of the questions I was going to ask that were on the form that are based on some of the questions that you submitted in response to my, to the questions on the form. That was a tongue. That was I couldn't quite get that out right. Anyway, so one of the things that you said that your expertise is a content gold mine, and I totally agree. And that for 5 years of interviews, on ASD, ADHD, and FASD, when you finish your recording, when you finish recording an episode as an expert, what goes through your mind about everything that could have been done with that conversation?
Okay, so I've been on a journey through constantly wanting to improve things, and at the onset, I did it. I think up to last year, it just used to be once the recording was done. I've got somebody who helps facilitate the recording and the editing and producing of the videos. So I've got a producer who's worked with me. In fact, she was the one that encouraged me to start the podcast. So she was kind of committed to it. And she keeps saying she's benefited a lot from the episodes. So she helps to run the episodes. So for up till last year, it was just once I did the recording was then going out into the videos, into the platform for all the platforms for listening. And I think what happened initially when I started was I wasn't consistent with it at all because I was kind of swamped with my clinical work. And, she was always urging me to keep going. And so I would produce an episode now and again. I just found the whole process so intense. Although I wanted to do it, but the whole process was thinking about the episode, thinking about what I was going to do. So I wasn't consistent. And I think what ignited made me go back was I had people contacting me saying, I listened to your episode and it was so helpful. So I said, where did you listen to this? Because this was something I wasn't doing, with my whole heart initially. I mean, I wanted to do it, but I just was tired. And so once when Buzzsprout sent me some analytics, and I was actually shocked that with me not doing that much, there was this content that was going all over the world, and they were showing me countries where it was being listened to. And, I felt, well, people are benefiting from this. So actually, I think I should be doing this a bit more seriously. And so I started trying to commit to several episodes, and my producer made me accountable to say, at least you produce at least one or two a month. So she started that way. So she made me think that. So she held me accountable. And that made me work hard, to produce this because she said, you've got to do it. And so we started working at that. But last year, when I started trying to transcribe the episodes at the same time she was recording, And then the content from that transcription, I read it out and I thought, oh my God, this is actually really good material that, can actually go out as an article to help people. And so I started doing that for each one. I was sharing it with the guests that came on the show, and they were absolutely, so happy as well that this conversation did not just stop at a conversation, but it was out as an article. And so I got encouraged and I started doing that more. And then, so that was going on, and I was doing that. And I must say, one of the game changers, Aldrima, was the SEO, was that command that you gave us. And I had just been also attending an AI course at the same time, and an AI agent course. So I then fed that blueprint you gave us.
Mhm.
I called my agent Petra and I said, Petra, look at this blueprint. I just actually copied it word for word and
Yeah.
locked it into cloud. And I said, when I give you the transcript, just run with it and produce this asset. And it has been a game changer for me.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, I have used exactly what you gave us, and
Wow.
that's what I lock in after every episode. I don't say much, I just lock it in and I say, Petra, please do the needful. And it just produces all these wonderful assets for me, which just goes everywhere. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Oh, wow. You are so welcome. Thank you for letting me know
Yeah,
because, sometimes you don't know.
yeah,
Sometimes I don't hear back, from
yeah.
people. And, I'm so glad that you said that about, that blueprint because it was a game changer for me. So, I
It's been a
figured,
game
it
changer
would be
for me.
one.
It's
Yeah.
it's been a
Yeah.
game changer for me, and
Awesome.
so I don't feel burdened, I don't feel anything.
Oh,
I
wow.
just put the transcript in, lock it in, and it produces this beautiful assets,
Oh, wow.
and which I yeah.
That is beautiful, beautiful. Now, so who is your audience? So I know are you talking to the like, the parents of, the people, the children that has those different issues, or is it, your colleagues? So who is your direct audience on the podcast?
So in fact, my audience is quite wide. Lots of parents and professionals, lots of family members who listen and then direct, somebody who would benefit from it. But lots of families listen, and then lots of professionals listen as well. So
Wow.
even people who have been vast in the field would say actually breaking that down into layman's language, and that really helps. And I think it brings about the human part of the work, because and for me I have learned a lot, I must say. Despite being a clinician for several years, we're very much in the clinic space and dealing with things in a very clinical way, but there are lives that are lived outside that. And it's helped me to connect a lot with families. So even things I've done on the podcast, I get the advice and the solutions. I share it with my patients, I share it with families in my clinic. And so it's just been a huge content, so professionals are listening to it as well. Lots of
Wow.
professionals, and they're finding it very, very useful. And when I started, I thought, okay, I'm just going to talk about these things. But what was amazing was that there were several dimensions I never thought about which spring from those topics, including adults who've been affected in their lives, including other aspects of the care. So I spoke to a surgeon, a pediatric surgeon in the States, who is an expert on obesity surgery and all that. His episode is going to come out. And what I never thought about rigidly was just making a lot of sense that these are all issues that affect the people that we support. So
Yeah.
so it's just kind of opened my mind so wide. I've had someone talk about grief. I've had amazing women talk about, the day-to-day life supporting their young people into university, into employment and the challenges of that. These are things we don't talk about in the clinic.
Wow.
So it's all And that's why it's very rewarding for me that
Yes.
I'm not just a doctor saying, okay, this is your diagnosis and this. It's, I can be part of their, giving information to support them.
Yeah. Wow. That is so amazing. I mean, I'm still amazed at, as we dive into this, the rest of the episode. I mean, I don't know how you do all this. And so so I guess that's what we're gonna find out, now. But so walk me through what actually happens between finishing your episode and one of the resources. Like you have several, like you've built apps, you've built courses, and you've done all this, from your podcast. And so walk me through what happens once you finish an episode.
So once I finish an episode, so we use Riverside to do the recording.
Right.
So once I finish the episode, then my producer begins to work on the editing and she will set a release date for when the episode is released. But at the same time that we're doing the podcast recording, I've got my transcriber on. So that my transcriber is also transcribing the audio part of the recording. And so that audio part of the recording is then fed into clogged and given the prompt to produce the article. So
Right.
my article is ready, pending when the video is ready. So and once the video is ready, she tells me the video is ready, and then we coordinate releasing. So she releases the episode onto the platforms, then I release the articles as well onto
Yeah.
the platforms.
Gotcha, gotcha. So then so you have your articles. So now so you're also building apps
Yeah.
and courses.
Yeah.
And so you're still in the process of doing that, am I correct?
So I've built some apps already. I'm in the final stages of getting it's been approved by the Google Play and all
Yeah.
that. So I'm just in the final stage of that going live in the public, but the web for of the apps have been built
Right.
and have been published. So it's just the mobile version that is waiting for. And again, it's been a great learning for me because when it was COVID, I looked at the fact that there were several things that could be done to bring information to people on a ready basis. And then well, that was when health technology was coming in and I was, seriously looking for people because I knew what families were facing on a regular basis. And so I had always had, this desire to be able to make things available. So when AI came, was it like a dog with a bone? And
Oh my gosh, I understand.
I was ready to learn and ready to learn. And that's why I registered for some formal courses teaching us how to do these things and build apps. So when I then knew, so I had all the information. So I
Yes.
had all the content and had all that. It was to make it actually come alive. And so I started building these apps and then building it and testing it and getting people to use it. And, the feedback has been quite good because there's nothing like when you need something, you want something to guide you and direct you. And that's what I wanted for families. So yes, that's been very helpful. So AI coming in
It's
has
like
been
a
a
game
game changer.
changer.
It's been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I've been able to do that, build these apps. I've been able to create what I felt was very useful
Mhm.
documents for families that I can easily give to them, not just the stereotype ones that were there, which were not, accessible. So it's been a game changer, but I've had to invest in a lot of learning
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that leads into the bottleneck, right? So you mentioned that. Well, before I ask that, you said that people are asking for the resources. There's a real demand for the resources,
yeah,
but you wish you had more time to build them,
yeah,
and that's the thing that's eating up your time is
yeah,
learning AI.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It is eating up my time because I want to learn more. I almost wish I could block out months in the year and just do that. Because am combining that with my regular work. So I come back and then have to sit on and do this learning and actually put things into practice to get the best out of it. So
yeah, yeah. So then, okay, so let's kind of pivot a little bit because I want to, as you're saying that, you want more, time to be able to do those type of things. How much time are you spending on working on learning in AI? So like approximately how many hours are you spending?
it comes in bursts. So, for example, if I'm doing a course or attending a seminar, some of the seminars I have to look at the different time zones. So I'm sometimes spending 3 hours or 4 hours, depending on how long it is. So on average, you might find, 2 to 4 hours. And yeah, so those are some of the formal ones I'm doing where I'm actually locked into doing a course for maybe a couple of months and things. So and I have to be committed to finishing that. There's
Mhm.
some that I registered to attend and just learn. And what I have done sometimes is to just pay a little bit more to be able to get the replays so that I can watch it in my time. But these are things that I would want to do it and then be able to, because I just don't want to just learn. I want to put it into practice and have the time to put them into practice.
Yes.
So, but, you know,
Yeah.
when I look at my day to day work, combining it with that's why I said I wish I had more time.
Yeah, yeah. So then, okay, so I know you said a few hours. So let's just say during like 1 week, what's the most amount of time that you've spent, or maybe a couple of weeks. So how many hours would you say that you've spent on, learning AI like in the course of 2 weeks? So,
I would,
and it doesn't have to be exact. I mean,
I would say about 10 hours.
about 10 hours within 2 weeks or 1 week.
I would say within 1 week, I would easily spend 10 hours in the whole
Yeah.
week.
Okay. 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 And so would you say that if those hours could be reallocate allocated to finishing like, some of the resources, because I know that what happens, and I'm speaking for myself as well, sometimes and so sometimes, we look up and we've learned all this stuff and we haven't implemented any of it. We just have a lot of knowledge about it. And, it's and that's great, and of course, the challenge with learning a lot of the, AI that's coming out is that it's coming out so fast, and
So,
as
so
soon
fast.
yeah, and as soon as we learn, one thing, then there's like a new update, there's a new this
Yeah.
or a new that, and you're like, "Okay, well, this is gonna make me, be able to do this, or do that," I know I'm a geekaholic myself. Like, what would you like the end result to be, between learning it and what results are you wanting, and how can we collapse the time and figure out, you know, we can't get more than 24 hours, but we can certainly
I think you're very right, and it's interesting you touched on this because actually I told myself I said actually I need to just round up. I've got a few books I have to tidy up. They are all kind of done, but I need to tidy them up because I've set a day that this has to be done by, end of July. And also I've said to myself, I need to just put the things I have done because when you look at it, I've done quite a fair chunk and I'm using quite a fair chunk already, which is
Right.
doing, so and so I would like to be very strict about the time I'm spending because if I could say reduce that to even 4 or 5 hours a week, then I could actually recoup 5 hours and do and finish what the other bits I need to do.
Right.
Like completing the courses I'm building, which ideally needs to be out within the next 4 weeks, and I need to be able to complete that. And again, I've learned a lot of that from the AI lessons I've done, and so I need to actually
So you do realize that you're giving your own self the diagnosis, right? As a
yeah,
doctor. So,
yeah,
yeah, and so, being able to cut that down into at least half, because if you look at what you are, let's just say, you have, some apps, and obviously you will want to, make money from the apps, from the
yeah,
courses, from the books and all of that. So as you're learning AI and but you haven't completed those products and the things that's really going to help not, fund your efforts. You got to think about, what is it costing you? So if you were to put that in dollars and cents, what do you think it's costing you? Learning is good, just like we've said, but you also have things that you want to complete. So what do
yeah.
you think it's costing you?
I haven't quantified it, but I'm saying that if those books were out and they were making money for me, which will make money, then obviously that would be an income that, that would be products, because I've published some books before, which is, and I know that
Sure.
once we get that, it's
Yeah.
coming through. So, and this, what I have to publish, there are quite good books that would, really be helpful and get people. So that's why I've had to say no.
You
I-
got to say no to some things, huh?
I've got to say no.
Yeah. So then if you were to cut it down to, half of that and then complete, how many completed projects do you think you could get done with an additional 5 hours? And it's not necessarily additional 5 hours, you're just reallocating it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Reallocating. I think if I had additional 5 hours, at least I should finish one book because that book is almost near completion. It was just proofreading and tidying it. I would, if I had an additional 5 hours, I would wrap up all the things needed to get to the end point for the apps being released. And then, yeah, and the courses as well.
so then what in I mean, and you don't I mean, you can tell me, what amount of income or revenue that would generate, or at least write it down and say, okay, once I complete, this, then and get this, marketed, because that's also another piece of it. You got to market the books and market the
Yeah,
course and market the
yeah,
apps, right? And so then you're looking at, that amount of time as well. And
yeah,
so writing down, I believe if you were to, let's just say, like, we're kind of diagnosing it right now. So if you were to cut back 5 hours and spend those 5 hours on completing, like the book and then or the app, or whichever one is going to, it's kind of like that snowball effect when it comes to finances, right? And so, you can knock out, one of those, get that out there, get it generating revenue. Let's just say, it's the course or what have you, get that out first, get it generating revenue, and then to go back to, you still got those 5 hours, then work on the next project, right? Get that out there. And of course, as entrepreneurs, you're going to get more ideas. There's going to be more demand.
I think that's my problem.
Yeah. And so what we have to, really always look at, so you already know that I'm a person who loves to look at it from a biblical perspective. And so, because time is not something that we're ever going to be able to get back, but we can redeem the time. And so one of the things that you are doing in terms of redeeming the time is you have someone working for you. So you have a producer that's also helping you in,
Yeah.
in that space, with your podcast. So that's amazing. Is there another project or another thing that maybe you can delegate or outsource to someone? And you're probably already looking at it, but I
Mm,
just really want you to take a really, zoom in on things that's going to help you to redeem your time. And redeeming
Yeah.
time, all that is, according to the scripture, is just making sure that you allow yourself to be available for the opportunities that God has for you. Right.
Mhm.
And so it's amazing when we look at, scripture in terms of how God multiplies, because the thing that you say no to, you're saying
Mm.
yes to something else, and vice versa. So I really want you to think about that 5 hours that you just talked about. I really want you to look at that and see how you can better allocate that time to completing those projects that you have on the shelf, because
Mm.
as long as they're on the shelf and you're still learning AI, you're not making the impact that you want to make. So,
Yes.
it's about impact. It is about, revenue. We know that it's about impact first, but it's still about revenue.
Yeah.
And, the more you get it out there, the more people that's going to be impacted, by your podcast, by your products and the things that you are, that you're working on, because that's why you got into it in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So,
and yes, and recently, because obviously we needed to get things on other platforms, so
mhm.
recently we got somebody to help us work on the social.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
she's doing some of the Instagram and TikTok and all that aspects as well. And
Yeah,
there's
all the socials.
something that was taking my time initially,
Yeah,
trying to generate posts for those platforms
that's
was definitely taking my time. So
yeah, yeah. And as a CEO of your business, and, stewarding, your entrepreneurial endeavors, you want to be out get out of the weeds of some of the things,
mm,
right? And allow yourself to be, the voice. And so you want to be the one that people see. You're the one that's out front and, all of those things. And so you want to make sure that you position yourself in a way that
mm,
allows you to do that.
mm,
Now, learning AI is fine, because the more you're able to incorporate those things. But
mm,
I want to see you actually, incorporate those things into some revenue generating
mm.
impacting other people's
Yeah,
lives
yeah,
kind of things.
yeah,
And so that's what and if 5 hours is going to do that, then let's go.
yeah. No, you're right, because I think one of the reasons why I ventured into doing more learning initially was also I wanted to also develop some courses to help teach clinicians about AI. And that was because where I don't know about the US, but a lot of clinicians were drowning on the traditional way of doing things, which
Yeah.
were taking a long time. And I
Yeah.
found out that a lot of my colleagues and a lot of clinicians colleagues absolutely do not use AI or do not,
It's here too.
understand what it had done for me in terms of streamlining a lot of my work. I felt that there was an opportunity to build that into training courses on AI in healthcare for clinicians, which I think I've, with the bits I've learned and all that and using it practically, I've been able to, kind of empower some colleagues, but I'm also doing some training, teaching, or speaking at some conferences on that. But
Yeah.
I felt that it would be useful for me again to use that as another arm of courses that I develop to teach clinicians as well. But I think I completely agree, and I've been doing that internal diagnostics as well and saying, "Come
Yeah.
on."
And the thing is, sometimes when I am, talking to people about, whether it's productivity, time management, getting organized, or what have you, it's like, I want to say, I don't necessarily have a magic wand. Just like I'm sure that when
Mm,
people come to your clinic, it's like, I don't have a magic wand, but let's talk about, the problem, and let's see if I can diagnose, from there, and just, kind of fill in the gaps to help you, continue moving along. And so I feel, the same way, especially as it relates to time, because,
mm,
a person who is passionate about what they're doing like you are. It's like you want to, it's like, I just want them to know so that they can do this better and so they can do this more
Mhm.
efficiently. And I've sat here and I've learned this, and, I can help them to, if they can just, realize how powerful this is and how it's helping me. And so the sooner you can get some of those things to the finish line,
Yeah.
I believe the sooner you'll be able to make even more impact that you're
Yeah.
trying to make, whether it's your colleagues, your clients, and what have you. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
just validates what I was it just validates what, I kind of told myself that.
yeah. And sometimes you just need to talk to somebody, just
Yeah.
just to make sure you're on the, like, is what I'm thinking, is am I on the right track? Yeah, you're on the right track. You're
Mm.
definitely on the right track. So I would say those 5 hours that we talked about, and is where I want you to where I want to see you multiply, your efforts within that 5 hours. So
Yeah.
because you're reallocating the time to do those things, to produce the things that you're
Mhm.
needing to produce. And I think that's going to make a tremendous difference, in where you are, and not feel overwhelmed, because when you get that
Yeah.
type of stuff done, there is a sense of accomplishment. And that's what I would, you just want to go on to the next thing. The other thing I would say is also just keep in mind that there are seasons for everything. The scripture talks about that. There's a time and a season for everything. There's a time to live, there's a time to die, there's a time to subtract, there's a time to add, in Ecclesiastes. And so sometimes I recommend that people go back and look at the season that they're in, because just because you need to do that doesn't mean it's the right season.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you'll know when it's the right season.
Yeah.
So, in addition to the reallocation of the time, look at the season, because He's a multiplier.
Yeah.
And so He'll help you to see where the leaks or what have you that need to be looked at in the
Yeah.
pipeline and things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, are there some questions, specific questions that you had for me that while we're on the call? I mean, I'd love to
I think,
answer.
yeah, no, I think we've covered, and I think it's been good having somebody, because sometimes you can just be going on one track, and then you just want
Right.
somebody to just look into that with you as well, and give you clarity. So I think we've kind of answered. You've looked at it properly for me, and it's just amazing how these little things make a difference. Like I said to you, just having that prompt alone just spared me time that I would sit down and I just put the thing in and then it generated.
I am so glad about that.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely, and I so appreciate that. And so
Mhm.
now I can use your quote, right? I can use that to share with other
Oh yeah,
people,
sure,
about the,
absolutely, absolutely. It's
yeah,
worked for me, and I keep saying it to people that this was a game changer for me right
yeah.
there. So I'm absolutely happy for you to share that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Awesome. Well, are there any last, comments or anything that you want to share about what you're doing, to the audience, not what you're doing to the audience, what you're doing that's going to help the audience? How do you want them to connect with you? And I'll definitely have that in the show notes,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
maybe you have some closing comments or something like that, maybe you want to share with people.
Yeah, no, I think I just want to share that I've learned a lot on this journey, and part of learning has been being open to learn from others and making myself available in places where I can, sit down and learn from other people. But also, one of the things that's helped me is actually having people that I've been accountable to who can say, we're going to do it this way. And here, because sometimes you can have the idea, but the commitment and the consistency to continue it. If I didn't have someone saying to me, look, let's have a plan, let's do it this way, then I would easily have just lost the zeal and actually connecting with people who can support you, where I've been able to get tools that has helped me get better at what I'm doing. And yeah, and also being open. So, like I said, when I started the podcast, I was looking at it in a restricted way. And I think what you shared about, God being a multiplier has been very, useful, because I've done that in terms of I've gone in thinking, okay, it's going to be this way, but the opportunities that are coming from being in one episode with a guest and the different dimensions had just made the content that I'm creating richer, because things I never thought, I would be talking about, or how I'll be able to connect the dots, have come through conversation. So it's just to give us hope that if you've got a passion or a desire, there's something I learned from one of the business networking sessions we shared.
Yeah.
What you said once, I think it was the last one, was that as long as you are in something that offers service and impact for people, and your love for people, you will succeed, and they make it more about what you're going to help somebody's life along the way. So and that's been it for me. And that once you have people in mind about being, what can you do to help that person along the journey, no matter what it is, I think it makes a lot of difference. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for your words of wisdom. I've learned a lot from you on the business networking arena. So it's been great meeting people and learning from people outside my sphere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate all of, what you do and I appreciate you showing up because you always come to the events, and whether it's my networking event or whether it's a master class or
Mhm.
what have you. I remember when you first
Yeah.
came and stuff. And so I definitely appreciate all that you have to contribute to your own community, because what you do is very, very important. And so, you sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us all the way over here across the country, across the waters, is definitely impactful as
Mhm.
well. Yeah, yeah. So, well, all right then. Well, listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I know that you have a very busy schedule, and we had a few glitches, but we'll definitely be okay. And I do, hope that this was, helpful for you. And I do
It
want
was
you to come back because we're going to have to follow up and see
yes.
how did those what did you do with that additional 5 hours?
Yes.
And so we gotta and can we shave off some more time so
Yes.
that you can do some more? Because I know by the time you come back, it's gonna be some more stuff that you wanna do. So yeah, so I definitely,
Yeah.
appreciate you showing up and sharing what you do. So all of the show notes, all of the information to reach out to Dr. Inyang Takon, and I pray to God I pronounced that right.
You pronounced it very well.
All of her information will be in the show notes where you can reach out to her, see what it is she's doing. Even if you want to be, a guest or just reach out to her.
Yeah, and I would welcome people who want to be
Yeah.
guests, and
Yeah.
they can connect with me. That would be
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. And definitely with your show, reach out and subscribe to her show as well so that you can be well informed, because she has a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge. And so, so thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you
And
to the audience, and thank you
yeah.
everyone. It's been a pleasure, and I've been blessed as well being here.